Okay, what I'm going to do in this video is go over our reproductive system pretest with the results from what was taken in class. Okay, so if you were there that day, this includes your results. If you weren't there that day, well, hopefully you still can gather some information. All right, first question was, where are the fallopian tubes? So you look at this diagram and where do you think they are? When we look at the results, about half of you got it right. The answer should have been number 1. Let's look at a diagram where it's not from the side. So maybe that contributed to the difficulty, but they're the fallopian tubes. They go from near where the ovaries are to the uterus. Okay, ova are stored in the ovaries. Where are they? So looking at this picture, where do you think they are? A big chunk of you got this one right. Number 1, those are the ovaries, one on each side. All right, this question, where is the clitoris? So where do you think it is based on this picture? And 60%, 6 out of 10, got it right. It should have been number 2. Number 2 was the correct answer for where the clitoris is located. Just real briefly, here's where the clitoris is. This, number 3, that's the urethra. That's the hole where urine leaves the body. And then we have the vagina here and the anus here. So again, looking at another picture, the clitoris, the clitoral hood, the urethral opening, the urethra, and then the vaginal opening. How many sperm will fertilize an egg? How many do you think? It's 1, okay? Even in the case of twins, it's still 1 sperm, 1 egg. If you have twins, identical, 1 sperm, 1 egg, but it splits afterward. In fraternal twins, you have 2 different eggs, and each egg is fertilized by a different sperm. 1 egg, 1 sperm. You need a lot of sperm to kind of get the process started, but only 1 will fertilize. How long can sperm survive inside the vagina, the uterus, the fallopian tubes, because they're going to make that whole big track. Okay? This is important for thinking about fertility and when a person may or may not have the ability to get pregnant. And this, not many of you knew this answer, only 9%. Sperm can survive up to 5 days. Now, there are some sites, some resources that will say up to 7 days, but for the most part, up to 5 days. So even if we count both of those answers, 5 and 7, it still would have only been 20% accuracy. So not very good. All right, how much semen is released in each ejaculation? What do you think? We've got teaspoons, we've got tablespoons. Yep, 20% of you knew this one, just a half to 1 teaspoon. That's it. So very small amount, a half to 1 teaspoon. Which relationship correctly describes the size of a sperm and an egg? What do you think? All right, it's this one. The egg is actually about 30 times larger. Okay, so not many of you got that one right. How long can an ovulated egg survive in a fallopian tube? So remember, we had sperm, they can survive up to 5 days, right? Inside the vagina, the uterus, the fallopian tube, along that whole track. So how long can the ovulated egg survive? That's up to 24 hours. So it's 12 to 24 hours. So think about that. Here's ovulation. If a person has unprotected intercourse up to 5 days before that. And then the egg is still viable for 24 hours after. So technically, that's for an additional day. So there's this big window of fertility, okay? True or false, only people with testicles produce testosterone. What do you think? Nope, it's absolutely false. That's about 3/4 of you. What is it in terms of levels? Obviously, in people who have a penis, testosterone levels are typically higher. In people who have a vagina, testosterone levels are typically lower. True or false? Only people with ovaries produce estrogen. What do you think? Well, based on the last question, this one should make sense. And 2/3 of you knew this. It's absolutely false. So if we just look at this quick graph here, you can see that everyone has estrogen, just differing levels. Okay, everyone has testosterone, just differing levels. True or false, a tampon should be removed before urination. What do you think? Nope, completely unnecessary. False. Let me show you why. Here's where a tampon is inserted, right here, into the vagina, because this leads to the uterus, and menstrual blood is coming out this way, out the vagina. The urethra is a completely separate opening right here that leads to the bladder. So with a tampon in, it is not blocking the urethra. So one can still urinate with a tampon in. True or false, condoms protect against all STIs. STIs are sexually transmitted infections. That is false. Most of you did know this. However, 20% of you didn't know this, which means you are not fully protected against STIs. If you think that condoms do protect against everything, they absolutely don't. If you're not sure why, check out my STI lesson. You can get Plan B without a prescription. Yep, absolutely. That's true. Check out my birth control video where I talk about this. Something important to remember about Plan B is its effectiveness does depend on weight. True or false, you can get an STI from oral sex. Most of you did know this one, so good job on that one. And that is absolutely true. True or false, the hymen protects against pregnancy. What do you think? All right, most of you knew this one. That is absolutely false. Some people aren't even born with a hymen. The hymen is just tissue that stretches. It's not something that literally breaks. There's a lot of misconceptions about this. So if you look at my people with vaginas video, we talk about this a little more. A person can get pregnant the first time they have unprotected sex. Yep, absolutely. Most of you knew this. A person can get pregnant while chest feeding. That's just the more inclusive term for breastfeeding. Yep, absolutely. So a person is pregnant, births a baby, is chest feeding. That is not an effective method of birth control. Not at all. Okay. Most of the time, at least while exclusively chest feeding, a person may not get their period, but that doesn't mean they're not ovulating. And if you're ovulating and having unprotected sex, you can still get pregnant, even if you haven't gotten your period. So, birth control, if you are looking to not get pregnant. A person cannot get pregnant if they have unprotected sex during their period. Okay, that is false. So most of you did get this right because of that fertility window, right? Sperm survive up to 5 days. The egg survives up to a day. So there's this big window. So you could be at the tail end of your period, or you could ovulate early or ovulate late, and all of a sudden the possibility of being pregnant is there. True or false, about 10% of the world population has herpes. No, most of you didn't know this. 1 out of every 6 people in that age range has genital herpes. So there's way more than 10%. Urine is released from the body through what opening? We talked about this already. Do you remember? Yeah, a big chunk of you knew this one. That absolutely is 3. That's either urethra. Urine is released from the body through what opening? I think this was the only question. 100% accuracy. So urine is stored where? Well, in the bladder. So where's the bladder in that picture? That is C, and most of you did know that. Sperm is stored where? Now, very few of you knew this. Sperm are produced in the testicles, but they are stored in a structure called the epididymis, which sits on top of the testicle. So it's actually E, and very few of you knew this. This structure contains the lubricating substance squalene. What is this organ? That's the vagina, okay? Those were some of the answers that were given, but vagina is the correct answer. On which day of the menstrual cycle does a person with ovaries usually ovulate? That's the 14th day, okay? Those are some of the answers that were given. How many sperm are present in each ejaculation? Millions, well, literally hundreds of millions typically, but these were some of the other answers you gave. How long does menstruation typically last? Well, 2 to 7 days, okay, 5 days on average, but menstruation is actually bleeding, okay? Where does fertilization occur? That would be in the fallopian tubes, okay? Those are some of the other answers. Where does implantation occur? That is uterus, and that was what more people answered than other things, but those are some of the answers that were given. How does a developing fetus get nourishment? Technically, the answer is placenta because that's the organ that the birthing parent produces that allows the exchange where diffusion happens from the parental blood to the fetal blood. The blood never mixes, okay? Now, that then gets to the fetus through the umbilical cord. That's just like a transport system. Placenta is really where the nourishment comes from. And that is an overview of the reproductive system pretest. Hopefully, you have a little bit more information now.